All right, good evening, everyone. Good evening, good evening. It is an incredible schos, Baruch Hashem, to be able to get a little bit of a head start on our spiritual preparation in Meretz Hashem for the Yom Tov of Pesach. Begin by thanking all of our shiur sponsors, to thank Chanon and Sarah Blach for dedicating the shiur tonight in memory of Sarah's dear father, Yisrael ben Nachman, whose fourth yahrzeit is tonight, the 29th of Adar. We hope that in the merit of our Talmud Torah, the Neshama will have an aliyah and the family in Nechama. We thank Penny and Chani Lerner for dedicating the shiur tonight, wishing a mazel tov to the Silber family. We thank the Lerners very much for their well wishes. Elka Mina Samuelson for dedicating the shiur tonight on the occasion of the third yahrzeit of her mother, Basya Bas Freda. We hope that in the merit of our Talmud Torah, the Neshama will have an aliyah and the family in Nechama. And we thank Rabbi Schaefer for dedicating the shiur tonight, wishing the entire Kehillah a Chag Kasher V'Sameach. Beautiful. Thank you. With that, let us begin. So Baruch Hashem, we have a lot to do this evening. It's actually exciting. I'm not sure that I ever gave a Pesach shiur before Rosh Chodesh Nissan. So this might be a first, but the truth is it also gives us an opportunity to look at the Yom Tov of Pesach a little bit differently. See, very often when we look at the Yom Tov of Pesach, often the focus is Pesach itself, meaning we have the Seder, we of course have the various prohibitions, the various obligations. I think because now we find ourselves just a few days, not even a few days, Rosh Chodesh is tomorrow night, so we find ourselves a day away from Rosh Chodesh. We have an opportunity to kind of zoom out a little bit, to be able to look at a little bit more panoramic view as to what exactly is going to unfold, not just over the Yom Tov of Pesach, but in Meretz Hashem, over the month of Nissan as well. If you think about it, a little bit similar to what we did in our pre-Purim shiur. Our pre-Purim shiur, we focused on Mishenichnas Adar Marbe Mesimcha, the power of the month. Power of the month. So I want to try to do something a little bit similar in Meretz Hashem, with focus both on Nissan as well as in Meretz Hashem on the Yom Tov of Pesach. Let's take a look at number one. So the Gemara Masechus Rosh Hashanah, an incredible Gemara. Tanya, Rabbi Eliezer says as follows: B'Tishrei Nivra Ha'olam. On Tishrei, the month of Tishrei, the world was created. B'Tishrei Noldu Avos, month of Tishrei, our patriarchs were born. B'Tishrei Mesu Avos, on Tishrei the patriarchs passed away. B'Pesach Nolad Yitzchak, Yitzchak Avinu was born on Pesach. B'Rosh Hashanah Nifkida Sarah, Rachel, V'Chana. On Rosh Hashanah, so Sarah, Rachel, Chana, all three women who struggled with infertility, were blessed with children, remembered for children on Rosh Hashanah. But Rosh Hashanah Yosef Beisa. Soon Rosh Hashanah Yosef was emancipated from jail. But Rosh Hashanah Batla Avol Mitzrayim. On Rosh Hashanah, so servitude ceased for our ancestors in Egypt. Ben Nissan Nigalu, we were redeemed from Egypt in the month of Nissan. Ubetishrei Asidin Liga, but Mashiach and Meretz Hashem will come in the month of Tishrei. So that's a lot of information right there. What I want you just to take away from this is the opinion of Rabbi Eliezer. The world was created on Tishrei, or in Tishrei, right? The world was created on Tishrei. Rabbi Yoshua comes along and says, no, B'Nisan Nivra Ha'olam. No, incorrect. The world was not created in Tishrei, but rather the world was created in Nisan. B'Nisan Noldu Avos, the patriarchs were born in Nisan. The patriarchs passed away in Nisan. Yitzchak was born in Nisan. On Rosh Hashanah, Sarah, Rachel, and Chana were remembered. For children, skip to the end. B'Nisan Nigalu, we were redeemed from Egypt in the month of Nisan. U'B'Nisan Asidin Ligalu. Mashiach in Meretz Hashem will come again. Mashiach will come in Meretz Hashem in the month of Nisan. So a fundamental machlokes about literally again, a fundamental machlokes about the history of the world, and a fundamental machlokes about how our entire calendar is arranged. You have Rabbi Eliezer saying that what we call Rosh Hashanah, what we call the first of Tishrei, is the actual birthday of the world. Rabbi Yoshua is saying, incorrect, the actual birthday of the world is Nisan. Now, you'll say to yourself, okay, that's very interesting, but who cares? Like, in other words, what does it really matter? So it matters dramatically, because what's the overarching question of creation? The overarching question of creation. You're like, it's 8 o'clock at night. It's too late for deep philosophical questions, right? But what is the overarching question of creation? Like, what are we doing here? I don't mean like, what are you doing here right now? I mean like, what are we doing here in this world? Ma chovasa ba'olamo, like the Ramchal writes. What's my job here? What's my purpose here? What's my tachlis here? What is it that I'm supposed to accomplish? And kind of the derivative of that, or in order to answer that, is I really have to figure out what's the nature of my relationship with God. How does God look at me? How does God understand me? How does God view me? Because that informs God's expectations of me. So the birthday of the world is not simply a calendrical question. The birthday of the world becomes a very life mission question. So what I want to point out to you is something very interesting. That these two, now obviously we know that it seems to be the conventional opinion or the conventional approach seems to follow which opinion? That when was the world created? Tishrei. We celebrate Rosh Hashanah, right? The beginning of not only the calendrical new year, but a celebration of creation on the 1st of Tishrei. In fact, in davening we say, Hayom Haras Ha'olam. It was on this day that the world was created. So it seems to be that we'll call it Halacha L'mai. So practically speaking, we paskin like Rabbi Eliezer. That might be fine. But when we delve a little bit more into this, spiritually, religiously, theologically, philosophically, the Gemara is trying to teach us two distinct lessons about how Hashem views us, how we're supposed to view ourselves, and how we're supposed to look at life. So I want to show you something very interesting, that there's another piece, which is, what's the significance of a birthday? This in general is good to know. What's the significance of a birthday? You know, my grandfather, Zichron Livracha, always used to joke with the grandchildren. He said he did not believe in presents for birthdays. He always gave presents, but he used to joke. He said, I don't really believe in presents for birthdays. Why not? He says, because there's only one example, right? There's only one time in the Torah that we see a birthday mentioned, and when is that? Paro. Yom Hula. So my grandfather said, you see, birthdays are not a Yiddish zach. Jews don't celebrate birthdays, no presents. Anyway, get presents. But birthdays are interesting, right? What's the significance of a birthday? What is the significance of a birthday? So on one hand, we know what's the danger of a birthday. Danger of a birthday is 1 year older, 1 more year set in my ways. Right? That's the danger of a birthday. And that's why very often, the Torah actually does not place all that much emphasis on birthdays because of the inherent danger of becoming set in one's ways. But the beauty of a birthday is that if I'm blessed with a birthday, that means Emirat Hashem has given me another year of life, another year of existence, which means now that a birthday by definition contains an element of judgment. See, and I'll just point this out to you. Rosh Hashanah, what's Rosh Hashanah? A day of judgment. Where in the Torah does it say that Rosh Hashanah is a day of judgment? Right? It doesn't. That's not in the Torah. We say that in davening. Right? In davening, nowhere in the Torah does it make reference to Rosh Hashanah being a day of judgment. In fact, the only thing that the Torah calls Rosh Hashanah is a Yom Teruah. It's Yom Teruah. That's it. Absolutely nothing else contained in the Torah about Rosh Hashanah itself. So how do we know that Rosh Hashanah is a day of judgment? Where does that come from? So you have to understand, it's inherent. In other words, if it's a birthday, if it's a new beginning, then by definition, it has an element of judgment. That's why, in Chassidus, there's a concept that a person on their birthday has incredible power. Right? There's a concept of getting a bracha from someone on their birthday. It's brought down even in some of the Svarim that it's not even just on your Hebrew birthday, but it's on your English birthday as well. There's a power that when you're given another year of life and you reach the anniversary of the day you came into this world, you've emerged meritorious in judgment. Right? Again, last year I was 25, right? So last year I was 25, right? Baruch Hashem. Now I'm turning 26, B'shah Tova Mitzlachos, right? So what happens? So now that means I was judged in my 25th year. Well, I have a full year. I made it to year 26. I was successful in judgment. So if I was successful, that's why there's an element of simcha on a birthday. Baruch Hashem, I was successful in judgment. But birthdays always carry with them judgment for what lies ahead. Which means now that if you look in the way, kind of like the rhythm of life, there are really 2 days of judgment. What are the 2 days of judgment? Tishrei, which will go with Aleph Tishrei, and Nissan. And we assume when we speak about Nissan, what are we referring to? Pesach. Pesach. So it turns out, by the way, even before we go on, they'll look at this new dramatic revelation. You thought you had your hands full with Pesach before tonight. Now it turns out that Pesach is also a day of judgment. It's a day of judgment. Not only is it a day which contains so many different mitzvahs, so many different obligations, but certainly it's a day of judgment. So two profound days of judgment in our calendar, the first of Tishrei, and ultimately again afterwards, Pesach, the month of Nissan. Wherein lies the difference between these 2 days of judgment? So take a look at number 2. This is incredible. Rabbi Yitzchak. So in general, when it comes especially to Rosh Hashanah, the question we often have is, because there's biblical ambiguity, I shouldn't say biblical ambiguity, there's biblical silence, right? There's no mention of anything to do with judgment for Rosh Hashanah. So what exactly are we judged on? What are we judged for? In other words, what's the criteria of judgment? So the Gemara says something absolutely amazing, which, by the way, tonight's topic is not Rosh Hashanah, but this idea will forever change your appreciation of Rosh Hashanah as well. Let's take a look at number 2. Rabbi Yitzchak says, Ein donin es ha'adam, ela lefi ma'asav shel osasha. The Grabba, you know what you're judged on Rosh Hashanah? You're judged based on your present. Ein donin es ha'adam, ela lefi ma'asav shel osasha. How does Hashem judge me? He looks at me on Rosh Hashanah, and depending how I am on Rosh Hashanah itself, that determines my judgment. Now, by the way, why does this blow your mind? Because we often think of Rosh Hashanah, what am I judged on for Rosh Hashanah? The whole year. It turns out, says the Gemara, no. The concept of being judged for the previous year actually sets in after Rosh Hashanah. We see, if you notice, by the way, here's what's fascinating. What's missing? I know we're spending a lot of time on Rosh Hashanah, but it's important. What's missing on Rosh Hashanah? What's missing? From the davening, what's missing on Rosh Hashanah? Vidui. Excellent. There's no confession. Right? No Ashamnu, Baganu, Gazalnu, none of that. No Al-Chetz, nothing. In fact, there's even a discussion about whether or not Avinu Malkeinu should be said on Rosh Hashanah or not. But I don't understand. If Rosh Hashanah is a day of judgment, then how could I not have any confessional prayers? And what's the answer? And this is incredible. Because Rosh Hashanah is not a day of judgment for the past. Rosh Hashanah is a day of judgment for the present. You know what Hashem is looking for in Rosh Hashanah? One simple thing. Can I get it together for one day? That's the judgment of Rosh Hashanah. Can I get it together for one day? That's why, for example, the Mishnah Berurah brings down, don't get angry on Rosh Hashanah. Don't get angry on Rosh Hashanah. Which again, is not always easy, especially if you have family over, right? Don't get angry on Rosh Hashanah. So you think to yourself, okay, so fine, I'm not going to get angry on Rosh Hashanah, but I'm going to get angry before Rosh Hashanah, I'm going to get angry after Rosh Hashanah, Matzei Rosh Hashanah, I'm going to get angry, Erev Rosh Hashanah, I'm going to get angry. But the whole chap of Rosh Hashanah is Hashem just wants us to show ourselves that I could become the best version of myself for 24 hours. Well, 48 hours, right? 48 hours. That is the avodah of Rosh Hashanah. Keep it together for one day. Become the best version of yourself. By the way, when you look at this, everything makes sense. There's no, right? You're not supposed to take a nap on Rosh Hashanah. Why are you not supposed to take a nap on Rosh Hashanah? You ever wonder about this? Why not? Why not? Okay, because the fear of judgment. I don't know anyone who abstains from napping because they're afraid of judgment. We abstain from napping because the person doesn't nap. You know why? Because for one day I'm supposed to show I can maximize my time. One day I'm not going to sleep through life. One day, I'm going to maximize every single moment. One day, I'm going to daven with purity. I'm going to eat with purity. I'm going to interact with purity. And then something amazing happens. Because if I could pull that off for one day, which is really 2 days, then what does that show me? What does that show me? If you can do it for one day, you can do it for 2 days. And if you can do it for 2 days, you can do it for 5 days. And if you can do it for 5 days, you can do it for 3 months. And if you can do it for 3 months, you can do it for 10 years. That's the whole avodah of Rosh Hashanah. And the whole judgment of Rosh Hashanah is just in danin es ha'adam ela lefi ma'asav she'osasha. Hashem is just looking at us in that present moment. That's all. Rosh Hashanah is not retrospective, and Rosh Hashanah is not prospective. Hashem's not looking back, and Hashem's not looking forward. Hashem is only looking at what is right now. Now again, once Rosh Hashanah is over, Aser Simei Tshuva, then we start again, Hashamnu Bagadnu, Al Chet, Slichos, because again, now I have to do Tshuva for my past in order to be able to lay the right groundwork for the future. But that's Rosh Hashanah. Rosh Hashanah, and by the way, if you take a look at it, the Gemara quotes the pasuk. How do we know this? Shnei Emar, Ki Shama Elokim Eskal Hanar Ba'asher Husham. So it's actually interesting. What is this a reference to? So the pasuk the Gemara is quoting in number 2 is the pasuk in number 3, source number 3. We know the story. Avram, against his will, has to expel Hagar and his son Yishmael. Right? Sarah says, I can't raise Yitzchak in his home. Avram Avinu complies with his wife's wishes and he expels Sarah and Yishmael from the home. We know the story. Hagar runs. What did Sarah say? Hagar and Yishmael from the home. Right? We know the story. Hagar runs out of water. Yishmael is dying. So what happens? The Torah says, number 3. So Hagar, before we get to number 3, Hagar goes in and puts Yishmael essentially under some thorn bushes, gives him shade, and she moves away. Because she says, I can't see my child die. She chooses to distance herself from her son at what she thought were his last few moments of life. Miraculously, who intervenes? Number 3, Vayishma Elokim eskal anar, Vayomer malach Elokim al anar bin Hashmai, Vayomer malach Hagar al tir'i, ki shama Elokim eskal anar, ba'asher hu sham. Malach, the angel, says, Hagar, don't worry, because God has heard the voice of the lad, ba'asher hu sham, in the place where he is. Rashi HaKadosh in number 4 says, what does that mean, Ba'asher Husham, in the place where he is? What does that mean? It's just let the pasuk say, Hashem heard the young man, that's it, when Ba'asher Husham. And Rashi records something absolutely amazing. Rashi says that in the celestial sphere there was an argument. The angels said to Moshe, to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, let Yishmael die. Just go. Let him die right now, because after all, again, Yishmael's descendants are going to cause so much pain and so much difficulty for the descendants ultimately of Avram Avinu. If you just let Yishmael die here and now, you'll save Klal Yisrael from so much trouble, so much heartbreak, so much difficulty, so much agony. And Hashem says to the Malachim, telling Malachim, when you look at Yishmael now, is he culpable? Or is he liable? Or at the end of the day, is he innocent? And the Malachim said, he's innocent. That's what it means that Hashem heard the voice of the boy, Ba'asher hu sham, where he was. Where he was is not referring to a geographical statement. Where he was is referring to a spiritual statement. At the end of the day, Hashem heard the voice of the boy where he was at that time. The Gemara says, what do you see from here? You see from here that sometimes in life, Hashem doesn't look at who we were, and Hashem doesn't look at who we will be. Hashem just looks at who we are right now. And if I could pull it together, and make myself into the best version of me right in this present moment, I could be victorious in din. And again, that's what Rashi says in number 5. Rashi commenting on the Gemara, Hashem knows full well that I'm ultimately going to make many mistakes in the future. But here's the beauty. And by the way, it's just a dramatically different understanding of Rosh Hashanah. My entire avodah of Rosh Hashanah is just to put my best foot forward for one day. That's the avodah. That's it. Daven with kavana. Don't speak lashon hara. Don't get angry. Be nice to people. Say shalom aleichem. Say good yontiv. Do hachnasas archim. Just simple things. Become the best version of yourself, and that is the judgment for Rosh Hashanah. So that's Rosh Hashanah, right? Or that's what we'll call Tishrei. What about the judgment of Nissan? Right? Again, remember, if we go with the idea that Nissan is also a birthday for the world, then at the end of the day, what about the judgment of Nissan? What is that on? What is that for? So I want to show you something amazing. Take a look at number 6. So in the back of the Siddurim, they print piyutim. Piyutim are supplemental prayers that are often recited on different Shabbosos. So for example, on the Shabbosos of the Dalet Parashos, we know again we have these weeks where we read an additional kriya, a supplemental reading. So if you take a look at number 6, this is a piyut, this is a section, so one of these supplemental tefillos that are said on Parshas HaChodesh, which of course we just read this past week. And what do we say in the piyut? HaChodesh, I apologize, it's a typo. It says, HaChodesh asher yeshuos bo makifos. How do we describe the month of Nisan? How do we describe the month of Nisan? We describe it as a month asher yeshuos bo makifos. Now, literally translated, the way we understand that is, it's a month in which one is, how would you translate makifos? Makifos? Like a hakafa, right? A circle, right? So it's a month in which we are encircled or enveloped by salvation. A beautiful description of the month of Nisan. HaChodesh asher yeshuos bo makifos. It is a month in which we are encircled and enveloped by salvation. By salvation. If you take a look at number 7, in the Sefer Sif Sechin, he says something absolutely incredible. The Mechaber here writes as follows. He says, V'yadua misvar makidoshim, the tevas makifos, hu milashon ha-mishnah, v'achen v'ni makif, mashil. So listen to this. The word makifos, or hakafa, or makif, so again, the Pashup Pshat is, like a hakafa, we go around with the Sefer Torah and Simchas Torah. So again, Pashup Pshat is, it's the month in which we are encircled by salvation. Hakafa also means to advance credit. To advance credit. So he quotes over the Mishnah for Perkei Avos, V'achen v'ni makif. The storekeeper, right, the store owner, makif, advances credit to his customers, right? When do you need credit? You come into the store, I don't have any money on me. Either I don't have any money or I don't have any money at all right now. The storekeeper gives me the goods, advances me credit, confident that down the road I will be able to repay the debt. So says the Sisechin something absolutely amazing. That the lashon of makifos, of hakafa, means to advance credit. What does advancing credit have to do with the month of Nisan? Watch this. Shabora Yisbarach, Makif HaYeshua, in the month of Nisan, listen to this, the Ribono Shel Olam provided us salvation on credit. He provided us salvation on credit. How so? V'agam sheinenu kidai v'roi v'hogon lakach hu mashal Yeshuos. So now watch this. Let's translate and we'll explain. Actually, go to the left-hand paragraph. B'yitav ponim, he writes, Kasav api darko v'kodesh, T'betzeis Yisrael mitzrayim, lo haya b'yadenu schos. You know, this is one of perhaps the most unappreciated parts of the Pesach story, right? We left Egypt. What was the merit that earned us redemption from Mitzrayim? What was the merit? What was the merit? There was no merit that earned us salvation. Remember, what you have is a rush to get in some last-minute mitzvos. Right? There's Karban Pesach, there's Bris Milah, so there's stuff that's going on that's happening a little bit of a haste. But at the end of the day, there was not a merit, right? It's not a schus that Klal Yisrael had that earned us redemption. So in other words, we were fundamentally undeserving of redemption. We know this. How do we know this? Because at the end of the day, why did Chash Baruch Hu take us out? Remember, we know Chazal tell us we were on the 49th level of Tumah, right? We were about to disappear into the oblivion of impurity, right? We were about to be lost forever. So there was no merit. There was no schus. If there was no merit to warrant redemption, then why did Hashem take us out? Look what he writes. He says, Zulas Masha Amra Hashem Yisbarach LaMoshe, Botziacha Esa Am Mitzrayim, Ta'avdun Elokim Esa Harazeh, Al Shem Sha'asidin Lekabel HaTorah. Do you know why HaKadosh Baruch Hu took us out of Egypt? Not because of anything we did, but instead of what? And because of what? Something we would do. You see, the Ribono Shel Olam saw within us that we are the people who will very soon stand by the base of Har Sinai. And when offered the Torah, what will we respond? Nasev v'nishma. The most incredible statement of blind faith. Give it to us, we'll take it, we'll hear what's written in it afterwards. See, HaKadosh Baruch Hu knew we had that capacity. He knew we had it inside of us. And therefore, He didn't redeem us because of something we did, or because of some type of zchus we possessed, or because of some type of accomplishment that had already been acquired. Rather, He redeemed us because of what He knew we could become. So it says the Sif Seichin something absolutely amazing. That's the meaning of the piyut. If you go back to number 6, look, it's a different understanding. HaChodesh asher Yeshuos bo makifos. This is a month. The month ultimately of Nissan is a month where Hashem extended credit. Meaning, we weren't redeemed because of who we were, but rather, again, Hashem gave us salvation first. Now, again, remember, when do you extend credit? The only time you extend credit is when? When you believe that the person you're extending credit to has the ability to pay it back. Chodesh Baruch Hu sees us. And when He looks at us, does He see a people who currently deserve to be redeemed? Absolutely not. Not in the present state. But He extends salvational credit because He believes and He knows what we have the ability to become. The month of Nissan is a month of spiritual credit. The month of Nissan is where Hashem says, I'm willing to advance you brachas. I'm willing to advance you salvation. I'm willing to advance you all beautiful things, not because you've earned it now, but because I believe in your ability to self-actualize. I believe in your ability to become someone and something great in the future. And the truth is, once He says this, it's absolutely incredible. You begin to see this theme in Pesach. Remember, what's the pinnacle of the Pesach experience? Pinnacle? Seder. Good. I would say from an experiential perspective, that's true. But when you look at the Yom Tov itself, what's the pinnacle? I would say it differently. The pinnacle of Yetzias Mitzrayim, of the Exodus narrative. Excellent. Kriyas Yamsuf. Right? Splitting of the sea. Kriyas Yamsuf is the pinnacle. Why is Kriyas Yamsuf? Why is the splitting of the sea the pinnacle of the Exodus narrative? Because that's when the chapter of servitude officially closes. When those waves come crashing down on the Egyptians, and the Egyptian empire is effectively obliterated, and the Jews saw their former tormentors wash up on the shore, then slavery was over. That was it. And by the way, that's why the Yom Tov of Pesach, it's a build-up. Right? The whole thing is a build-up. It starts with the Seder. But remember again, really Pesach reaches its apex. It reaches its zenith when? On Shvi'i Shal Pesach, the 7th day. What's Shvi'i Shal Pesach? Kriyas Yamsuf, the splitting of the sea. And I want to show you something amazing. Take a look at number 8. So again, actually, you can take a look at number 9. So remember again, and in the story, and of course, in Kriyas Yamsuf, the pinnacle of Kriyas Yamsuf, of course, is Az Yashir. Right? That's the essence of Kriyas Yamsuf. Everything that's happening over here, ultimately, again, is to lead up to the Egyptians being drowned in the Red Sea, Klal Yisrael singing beautiful Shira. And what is Klal Yisrael? Take a look at number 9. So number 8 is just Az Yashir. Look at number 9. So a beautiful, beautiful pasuk, literally. And with the breath of your nostrils, the waters were heaped up. So again, what's the imagery? What's the imagery over here? What's the imagery? Right? Correct. In other words, Hashem is like breathing on the water. Right? He's breathing on the water. And the divine breath on the water causes the water to pile up. Because we're talking about Overuach apecha ne'ermu mayim nitzvuka ma'onei nozlim kaflu tamos belev yam. Literally, again, the running water stood erect like a wall. The depths congealed in the heart of the sea. Incredible. So I want to share with you something amazing. Rabbi Yisrael of Virgin makes a fascinating observation. The Rebbe says as follows. I didn't put this on a sheet. We'll do this outside. He says as follows. Baruch apecha. The word af, right? We're translating af as like nostrils, nose. What else does af mean? Sorry? However, correct. What else? Anger. Excellent. Af also means anger. Get ready for this. The Rishner quotes the Medrash. The Medrash says that when Hashem created the world, the Ribono Shel Olam made, quote unquote, deals with different aspects in nature that He would need them to act a certain way at different times. So, for example, when Hashem created the waters, the seas, He says to the Yam Suf, He says to the Red Sea, here's the deal. Red Sea, do your thing, right? You be you, right? Do your thing, be a sea. But when the Jewish people come to you, right, in however many years from now, right, when they come to you, my nation is going to come stand at your banks. I need you to split. I need you to split. That's the deal, right? I need you to split. Okay, fine. The Yam Suf says, so if you're the Yam Suf, what's your question? What's your question on this? How will I know? No problem. HaKadosh Baruch Hu shows the Yam Suf a picture of Klal Yisrael. Here's the picture, right? And when you see this nation appear at your banks, you need to split. Fine. Fast forward. It's now 7th day of Pesach. Klal Yisrael is standing at the banks of the Yam Suf. And what happens? The Yam Suf is not splitting. The Yam Suf is not splitting. Says the Medrash, the Ribono Shel Olam himself comes down and says, hey, we had a deal. We spoke about this. Why aren't you splitting? To which the Medrash says, the Yam Suf responds, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, you showed me a picture of a nation filled with righteous, spiritually luminescent people. Do you see these guys? Like literally, do you see these characters over here? Right? I'm not splitting for them. This is not what we agreed to. I agreed to split for a righteous nation, not for a spiritually compromised ragtag group of former slaves. Says the Medrash, HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, if you won't split yourself, then I will split you. Uberuach apecha, with a spirit of anger at the sea, HaKadosh Baruch Hu split the sea. And says the Rishoner, herein lies the greatness of the Ribono Shel Olam. Because HaKadosh Baruch Hu does not simply see us for who we are, but He ultimately sees us for who we can become. The Ribono Shel Olam sees us for who we can become. And it turns out that the entire essence of Pesach and the entire essence of the month of Nissan, what's the judgment, right? B'Nissan nivra ha'olam. What's the judgment, so to speak? What is HaKadosh Baruch Hu looking at during this month? Hashem is not looking at who we were, and Hashem is not even looking at who we are. HaKadosh Baruch Hu is looking at who we can become. Nissan is the month of potential. Nissan is the month. Do you know what the most incredible thing? I think parents often go through, ever have this parental moment where you look at your kid and you say, you know what? You're so great, and I'm so disappointed that you don't see your greatness. Right? You're acting like you're mediocre. You're acting like you're regular. You're acting like you don't matter. You're acting like you can't accomplish something excellent. And I'm the parent, and I say, you know what? Oh my gosh, I see your greatness. And it's one of the most frustrating things as a parent. Why? Because what do you realize? Oh, no one here ever had this. Wow, incredible. Okay, fantastic. Must be just me. Right? So again, what do you realize? You realize is you can't make your kid see their greatness. So what you do is, like we often do as parents, you kind of take a deep breath, you fold your arms, and you say, all right, they'll get it. They'll get it. And they do get it. They do get it. Happens sometime down. You can't force someone to see their greatness. And we know, every parent knows that moment of frustration. When you as a parent see that greatness, your child doesn't see it in him or herself, and no matter what you say, no matter what you do, you can't get them to see it. All they see in themselves is just average mediocrity. They can't see the greatness. If that's the way we, as human parents, feel, Alachas kama v'kama how HaKadosh Baruch Hu feels when He looks at us. The Rebbe Shalom looks down every single day and he says, they think they're regular, or they think they're mediocre, or they think they're average. But HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, I see that each and every one of them possesses a ridiculous amount of potential. And when does HaKadosh Baruch Hu pay specific attention to our potential? In the month of Nissan. Because historically, our ancestors were not redeemed because of anything they did. Our ancestors were redeemed because HaKadosh Baruch Hu saw the incredible reservoir of potential they possessed. Therefore, Nisan becomes the month where HaKadosh Baruch Hu, says, HaKadosh Baruch Hu is willing to advance He's willing to advance salvation, miraculous salvation. You see, the miraculous salvation of Nissan is not simply historical. If you need something in life, and we all need something in life, Nissan is the month to get it from HaKadosh Baruch Hu. But you have to know the right formulation. And what's the formulation of HaKadosh Baruch Hu? I probably have not earned what I'm asking for. Probably haven't earned it. But you know what? You see my potential. So I'm asking for an advance. I'm asking you to advance me my brachos. And fill in the blanks. What do you want? What do you want? And ask HaKadosh Baruch Hu for the things you need. And ask HaKadosh Baruch Hu for the things you're struggling with. And ask HaKadosh Baruch Hu for the things that have remained so elusive all of this time. And in the whole month, you say, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, you redeemed my ancestors from Egypt. And they deserved it. I'm 10 times better than they were. 10 times better than they were. They were worshiping idolatry. Thank God. That's one thing I don't have to contend with. I'm so much better off. Yet, you advanced so much spiritual credit to them. Do it for me also. Do it for me also, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. This is the month where HaKadosh Baruch Hu is willing to give us bracha. Not because of anything we've done, but because of who we have the ability to become. Nissan is the month where HaKadosh Baruch Hu is fixated on our individual and collective potential. So just before we go on, I just want to point out how incredible it is. Now the Gemara kind of rounds out a little bit. Because now you have essentially 2 days of judgment, so to speak, or 2 birthdays of the world. We have Nissan and Tishrei. And in Tishrei, what is HaKadosh Baruch Hu looking at? He's looking at me now. Ein danen esa adam elamach asher usham, asher omed sham. HaKadosh Baruch Hu is looking at the present. Can you get it together right now? And as long as you get it together right now, we're good to go. In Tishrei, in Nissan, HaKadosh Baruch Hu is not looking at what was or what is. But instead he's looking at what will be. This is a month of potential. And this is a month where HaKadosh Baruch Hu is literally willing to extend credit to us, spiritual credit to us, for that potential. But one more piece, and then we'll bring it all together. Take a look at number 10. This is from the Sefer Pri Eitz Chaim, Shar HaShofar Perek Hey. So the Pri Eitz Chaim is the Arizal. The Arizal says something absolutely amazing. The Arizal writes, he says, Diyesh bechinas ibur u bechinas leida. It's actually a very beautiful idea. He says there's the concept, of course, of pregnancy and birth. Pregnancy and birth. Listen to what he writes. Betishrei haya ha'ibur. In Tishrei was like the pregnancy of the world. The pregnancy of the world. V'ched osios Tishrei, heim osios Reishis. There were letters in Tishrei, the same letters of Reishis, without the Aleph. U'b'Nisan haisa ha'leida. And Nisan, ultimately, again, what happened in Nisan? Nisan was the birth. Nisan was the birth. So if Tishrei ultimately, again, is the pregnancy, Nisan is the birth. Shetzarech nisim lotseis min habeten be'es leidasa. Because what happens, says the Arizal, the month of Nisan, ultimately again, which is the same notion of nes, of miracle, ultimately again, being pregnant with miraculous potential is wonderful, but it doesn't do anything until you birth it. So now, just hold on to this just a second. So the Arizal is saying that Nisan is a month of birth, but that seems to stand in contradistinction to what we were just saying before, right? Because birth seems to be the opposite of potential, right? Pregnancy seems to be more equated with potential. Birth seems to be a bit more equated with reality. So you have the Arizal saying that Nisan is the month of birth. So how does that shtim? How does that reconcile with the Sif Seichein? That ultimately, again, Nisan is the month of potential. So perhaps, if we bring this all together, what's the avoda of the month of Nisan? What is our avoda? And this is Nisan, this is Pesach, it's all the same thing. What is our job? And no, it's not to kasha the countertops. That's part of it. We're going to come back to countertops in just a moment. Right? What is the avoda of Nisan? The avoda of Nisan is to recognize your potential. That's the avoda of Nisan. You see, that's not the avoda of the rest of the year. Sometimes the avoda of the rest of the year is, let me just get it together for a day. Let me show myself, get it. The avoda of the month of Nisan is to take a step back and to say to myself, the Ribono Shel Olam redeemed my ancestors, not because of who they were or what they did, but rather because of the potential they possess. And if they possess that potential, I possess that potential as well. Step one. But what's the problem with potential? What's the problem with potential? It's meaningless unless you birth something. Potential by itself is very nice. Potential is kind of like inspiration, right? What's right? Inspiration is so nice, right? You feel good, right? Until when? Until you don't, right? Because again, like inspiration comes, inspiration goes. If you don't plug inspiration into anything, it's just fleeting. Nissan is the month of overwhelming and incredible potential. But you have to recognize and actualize the potential. And how do you do that? You have to birth something. You have to create something for yourself, of yourself, with yourself this month. Potential by itself is meaningless. That's it, by the way. We see this by our ancestors, right? Where did you see that Klal Yisrael had to birth their potential? When was the first time that Klal Yisrael birthed their potential? First time. First time is when we left Egypt and went into the desert. Like the pasuk says, Ka amar Hashem, Zacharti loch chesed nurayach. Hashem says, I remember the kindness of your youth. Chesed nurayach, avas kolosach, lechtech acharai bamidbar. So you have to understand something. We followed Hashem into the desert. And what did we follow Hashem? What did we have? Right? I go to visit my parents in New Jersey, right? And when we pack up the car, there's enough food for a small country, right? And that's 2.5 hours. 2.5 hours. Klal Yisrael, 3.5 million people left civilization, wandered into the desert. And what do they have with them? Matzah. And not like, cream cheese and matzah, right? Pizza matzah, matzah brai, right? Not the, what are the ladyfinger cookies, right? None of that. Matzah. And how much matzah were they able to make? I don't know. They didn't have that much time to prepare anything. They left with haste. Sure, they had plenty of money, but money doesn't do you all that much good when you're in the middle of the desert. See, even Klal Yisrael, Hashem says, I'm going to advance you salvational credit. I'm going to take you out of Egypt now, even though you don't deserve it. But I'm going to advance you salvational credit because I see your potential. But potential only gets you so far. At a certain point in time, you have to tap into that potential and you have to birth something. So our ancestors did that. Hashem said, I'll take you out. And we birthed that potential. How? We went into the desert. We followed. And then we did it again 7 days later. At the banks of the Red Sea. Remember again, the sea didn't split until when? Until we went in. We had to go in first. Once again, birthing up. And that's what the Arizal is saying. The Arizal is saying, yes, the month of Nissan, Pesach, is an incredible time of potential. And again, I can't stress enough. Hashem is willing to advance us. The brachos that we want. The brachos that we need. Hashem is willing to advance us, give us spiritual credit, and provide us with the salvation we need. Why? Because He sees our potential. But He says, I'm going to advance you the credit. But you got to do something. You have to do something. That's the Arizal says, Nissan is the month of birth. You have to birth some kind of change. You have to birth some type of new reality. And watch this. When you understand this, Pesach then begins to make so much more sense. There's an incredible Gemara, opening Mishnah, Meseches Rosh Hashanah. The Mishnah says that Nissan is a Rosh Hashanah. And what is Nissan a Rosh Hashanah for? L'melachim u'l'regalim. L'melachim u'l'regalim. So melachim means kings. Jewish kings would count their reign. The first year of reign would start on the first of Nisan. They'd count their reigns by Nisan. Regalim, what are regalim? The Yamim Tovim. Pesach, Shavuos, Sukkot. So the Gemara discusses a whole discussion over there that if you pledge to bring a karban, a sacrifice, you have 3 regalim, a cycle of 3 regalim in order to go ahead and bring it. It starts from Pesach. What else does the word regal mean? Habit. Excellent. Habit. I'm going to ask you a question. You ever find yourself in the middle of Pesach cleaning and say to yourself, what the heck am I doing? Ever happened to anyone? Right? Like, is it really? I'm scrubbing things that I didn't even know existed. Right? Is it like, what is this? What is this? What is it exactly, right? You're pouring hot water over every surface, right? The tin foil is out like no one's business, right? The refrigerator's out, that this is inside out. Everything is upside down. Upside down. You ever wonder, like maybe in a moment of Pesach cleaning weakness, does God actually want me to do this? Right? In other words, it's so laborious, and it's so intense, and it's so overwhelming. And for many, all kidding aside, it's anxiety provoking, right? And the shopping, and the this, and the that. And the truth is, if we're honest, if like there's one Yom Tiv we're leading up to it is the antithesis of spirituality, it is Pesach. Pesach. So ever wonder, like, God, you run the world, you obviously got this under control. So like, what's the plan here? Perhaps, do you know what you see from Pesach? Do you know what you learn from Pesach? And specifically from the cleaning? That you could turn your life upside down if you choose to do so. If you choose to change the rhythms of your life, if you choose literally to turn your house upside down, to turn your life, right? Rhythms, life rhythms change leading up to Pesach, right? Everything changes. When can I get to the supermarket? And I can get this, and I can get that, and how should I clean here? And there's a schedule, and there's a this, and there's a that. Everything changes. And everything in my life revolves around Pesach. Why? It's to teach me that I could change the herigel. I could change the habits. That's what it means. Nissan, Rosh Hashanah, L'Regalim. The whole chap of Pesach. If you think about, what is Pesach? Pesach, right? What do we say? How do we open up the Seder? Ma nishtana halayla hazeh mikol haleilos. And you know, right? Why is this night different? And what are you ready to answer? Right? If you're sitting at that Seder, what are you ready to answer that question? Oh, you want to know what's different? I'm going to tell you what's different, right? I'll tell you the last month's been different, and it's been overwhelming, and I'm exhausted, and I'm worn out, and I'm this, incredible. I'm like, why? Why? What is all this? It's to show you that you could change whatever you want in your life. It's to show you that if you want to change the way you live, and you want to change the way you look at the world, and you want to change your orientation, because that's happens Pesach, right? Your orientation changes. Right, depending on how your kitchen is set up, right? If you're maybe one of the 5 people who doesn't go away for Pesach, right? So again, right? So if you go, right? So now what happens, right? The rest of the year, the pots are over here. And now for the next week and a half, the pots are over here. And there's a whole orientation shift. There's a whole, so you understand, do you understand what Chazal are trying to teach us? They're not trying to make us miserable, contrary to popular opinion. Do you understand what HaKadosh Baruch Hu is trying to teach us? HaKadosh Baruch Hu is trying to teach us, you can reorient your life if you want. You could reorient. You could change. You can move things around. Your life, your existence need not be static. It doesn't have to be the same day in and day out, year in and year out. If you want something different, if your counters could become different, then you could become different. If your pots could go in different cabinets, then you could place yourself in a different spot in life as well. The entire avoda of Pesach, everything about Pesach, is supposed to be disruptive. You see, my whole life, I thought it was just Pesach was disruptive for me. And now I realize the whole point of Pesach is to be disruptive. The whole point of Pesach is to go ahead and to interrupt the natural flow of life. Because we are creatures of habit. And as creatures of habit, we get used to living a certain way, doing things a certain way. I've cultivated a certain type of person. This is who I am. Love it or leave it. I can't change. Not true. Not true. Pesach shows us that you can pretty much change anything and everything if you're willing to do it. And now we understand. Because if the month of Nissan, the Yom Tov of Pesach, is all about potential, like the Arizal says, potential is only meaningful if you birth something with it. But you'll say to yourself, I can't birth anything with my potential. If you're prepared for Pesach, you show that you're capable of change. If you turn your house upside down, your external house, your physical house, you could turn your internal house upside down as well. So if we bring this all together, it turns out that there is such a deeper and beautiful lesson, an idea, an ideal associated not just with Pesach itself, but with the entire month of Nissan. Nissan is the month that HaKadosh Baruch Hu extended credit to our ancestors. We didn't deserve to be redeemed. He extended the credit, salvational credit, and He redeemed us. Not because of who we were, but because of who we would become. Hashem forces the sea to split, because even the sea, even the Yam Suf, only saw us for who we were. HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, see, Yam Suf, you only see them for who they are. I see them for who they can be. And therefore, in this month of Nisan, this is why the month of Nisan itself is a time that is so ripe for prayer, so ripe for petitional requests, so ripe to say, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, I'm not coming and asking you for anything in life because it's owed to me, because it magia li. I'm not asking you for that. I'm asking you for credit. I'm asking you for credit because I know you believe in me, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and this is the month I'm going to start to believe in myself as well. Because too many of us go through life just assuming that the most we could produce are average, mediocre results. And HaKadosh Baruch Hu sitting in Shamayim, right, nodding his divine head, saying, I just wish they believed in themselves a little bit more. I believe in them. I see their potential. The month of Nisan is where I say to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, give me what I need. And if you advance me the credit, I'll actualize my potential. But saying you're going to actualize your potential is not enough. You have to birth something. You have to birth. You'll say, I can't birth anything. Right? This is what it is. Right? This is who I am. This is what I am. If you could prepare for Pesach and turn your house upside down and turn every element, and even at the Seder itself, manishtana. Everything is manishtana. Everything is different. We do things in order to ask. We disrupt the normal flow. There is nothing that flows normally about Pesach. Every single thing is different. And that's by design. To show us that if we want to turn things upside down, if we want to affect change, if we want to get out of the normal rhythms of life and do something different and birth our potential and discover our potential, that ability is within reach. This is our avoda of Nisan and our avoda of the Yom Tov of Pesach. So perhaps we end off with just one kind of call to action, which is, first of all, step one is acknowledge the fact that you have potential. Because a lot of times we go through life, we don't even realize that. We don't acknowledge it. I have potential. Say it to yourself, not now. But I'm saying, like, hey, I have potential. And say it. And keep saying it. You know, sometimes you have to, there's a famous story, I think I mentioned it before, but Dr. Abraham Tversky, Zichrono Livracha, once was at a psychiatric conference, and he was sitting across from a world-renowned psychiatrist. And he saw that during one of the presentations, the psychiatrist was going like this with his mouth. Rabbi Tversky writes, comically, he says it looked like maybe, it was a conference for patients, not for doctors. So he went over to the guy afterwards, and he said, like, what are you doing? And the individual said, this doctor said, sometimes in life I don't feel like smiling. But I've come to find that if I manipulate the corners of my mouth enough in the shape of a smile, over time it sticks. Sometimes in life you don't believe something. So you have to keep saying it until you believe it. A lot of us don't actually believe we have potential. So what do you have to do? Keep saying it. Over and over and over. To yourself. Over and over and over. Till one day the smile will stick. Until one day I'll actually believe it. That's step one. Step two is decide one way. Not 2 ways, not 3 ways, not 5 ways. One way in which you're going to birth your potential. Whether it's something you want to start doing that you haven't done before, or something you want to change. And I know that I needed to change this for a very long time, but I haven't mustered up the courage to do so yet. Well, this is my month. This is Nisan. Because if I could change my life to celebrate the Yom Tov of Pesach, then I'm capable of changing anything and everything. And halavai in the schus of all of us discovering our potential, or acknowledging our potential, actualizing our potential, birthing our potential, finding the courage within all the preparations to recognize that we too have the ability to turn our lives upside down and make of it as we want. Like the Gemara says, Benisan nigalu ubenisan asidin ligail. Thousands of years ago, our ancestors were redeemed from Egypt on credit. On credit because they were willing to birth their potential. If we are willing to follow in their footsteps, then halavai, we will be zoche to experience our own geula as well. Mihir Rabbi Yameinu. Amen.